if he was, he would deny it, and if he isn't, he would deny it. But one time he just told me right out that he was headed to California because he was going to a convention of retired intelligence agents. So.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We're going to be chatting with Rob and Trish MacGregor a little bit about all kinds of fun synchronicities and big synchronicities, and we might even raid a synchro or two. And that was a fun chat. Great time with those two. And, of course, we've got the one and only Puffy Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
What the fuck is that? You know, where did you get that? You keep your little notes and you come up with a lame one.
Yeah, I know. That was a good one, I thought.
Yeah, I'm doing okay until I get called Puffy. I mean, well, I don't know. I've been losing weight. I don't understand where that's coming from.
Have you been?
Yeah.
What are you at?
Never mind.
Because now we can check in the morning.
That's right.
I'll be your coach.
That's right.
We'll weigh you every morning after the meeting.
All right.
And I'll inspire you by tweeting out your weight.
Okay. I'll just watch it. It'll be like one of those before and after things.
Think so? Yeah. What are you doing? Are you off of something?
Just affirmations.
Oh.
Affirmations.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's working.
How much?
Visualization.
How much have you lost?
5 pounds, maybe.
So think how much you could have lost. How much time you spend in visualizing yourself?
Not long, like a minute a day, maybe a couple minutes.
A minute a day.
Maybe a couple minutes.
How much time affirming?
Like seconds.
Seconds.
Yeah.
Once a day.
Well, at least.
I wish I was thinner. People are saying that all day, all the time.
Wish. No, they're not.
No?
People aren't positive, Darren. We just talked about that in our last episode. There's negativity rampant.
You can't say negatively, I wish I wasn't so fat.
No, of course not. That's the wrong way.
You get fatter?
Yeah.
I wonder if I can work against you.
Yeah, probably.
if I can just take 10 minutes out of my day. And
then I'm wondering why it's not working, so I got to take 15 minutes. Then I'm wasting an hour just counterattacking Darren's curse.
The meditation.
See, I didn't even want to talk about this tonight, and somehow it comes up.
I slipped right into it like within 3 minutes. We're at 2 minutes.
Yeah. Anyways, no, it's part of the.
Well, it'll be
you know
good
what?
Because now the audience can help you out.
And I think there's another spin-off effect of that, where you start eating better just because you're actually intending that, and then you probably feel like you should help it along a little bit. Like,
I took a picture of your breakfast.
Yeah, that's not bad. Eggs and bacon, that's good. Eggs and bacon, I only had half of that bun, so
You took half the bun off?
yeah.
That is a step in the right direction.
There you go. And I saw donuts and holes the other day, and I didn't even eat them.
No, I haven't had a donut in months. Are you off the sugar at all?
No, I'm cutting back a little bit, but I'm not off.
I had some chips today.
Yeah.
I had a small bag of chips. I just, fuck it.
Hey, I know. Every once in a while, I crave the chips.
Yeah, it's my weekend. Get some zesty taco.
Yeah.
Fucking primo, man.
No.
Then I got thirsty.
Before I forget,
Don't point at me. That's
you
twice.
got to listen to the outro.
Of what?
This show, our outro. It was long, and I don't remember why, but we were laughing up pretty good. It was pretty funny.
Was Michael on for that one?
Maybe, I can't remember. Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
You have a note in the notes to listen to the outro?
Yeah.
Interesting. So this is a problem when we get a month out. It's
Yeah.
hard to remember what you talked about.
Yeah,
a month
we
ago.
recorded this one a month ago. It was just bad timing for Trish and Rob as far as like our backlog and stuff like that. We tried to get it out last week, and it just wasn't going to happen. So.
But, well, I was going to release one on my birthday, but then what happened? We just didn't happen.
Yeah.
I did go for a float, though.
Yeah, how was
a good
that?
time. It was much better than the first time. Didn't get any in my eyes this
Oh,
time.
that's only twice now.
I got a little in my nose. That was pretty intense for a minute.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't a deal breaker. So yeah, it was good.
How long did you go for? An hour?
Well, I think they let me go for about 80 minutes.
Did you listen to music at all?
I did music for like half.
Did you say hi to our buddies over there?
Yeah, Dustin. Dustin was there. Dustin
cool.
set us up.
Did you go Marta Loop?
Yeah, I went to Marta
You
Loop
went
this
to a
time.
different location?
Yeah, it was super. So if you are in Calgary, do check it out.
I'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, fucking, we went. We had a great time. Big thanks to Isaac and Dustin over there. Isaac's been trying to get me to go for a float for about a year.
Yeah.
So it was good. I went on my birthday.
Did you feel like your mind was very loud and active because everything else was so quiet and
Yeah.
dark? Like
and then
it's
good though. I'm able to kind of go through my thoughts one by one and organize them a little bit. That was a good time.
Really?
I rather enjoyed it.
Get that later.
I'd go back. I will go. I'll go back for sure.
Nice.
I'd like to get in the routine, you know?
Speaking of...
I might have found a hemorrhoid.
In the float. Because of the sting?
No, because he was feeling himself.
Well, yeah.
Little burner.
Yeah.
What's that?
Dig a little deeper next time then.
I guess I need, I should have stuck some silicone in there.
Ah, jeez. You got that that silicone earplug? You should just plug that up too.
They should give you one.
Or just go in with a butt plug.
You have one?
I could lend you one.
That's not awkward at all. So make sure you clean it before you go to bed.
Yeah.
So what do you got for me, buddy? What's new?
Well, speaking of Calgary events, Nassim Harriman's Emissary.
Ooh, when's that again?
What's coming up?
Is that this month?
Jamie Janover. He's been on the show before. Fascinating guy, fascinating conversations. He's into some of the festivals and stuff like that. And the unified field theory of Nassim Harriman and beyond. That's in Calgary at the Grey Eagle Casino. And it's April 29th at 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So we got to go to that. We should get tickets and go. And it'll be awesome. So just for everybody, in Calgary, it'll be great. I think it's $45 a ticket.
When is
It'll be worth it.
What day? It's on the weekend.
April 29th.
Fuck yeah. That's a weekend, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming. Oh, yeah, it should be. It would be. So I'm putting the link to that in the show notes. That's Sunday. Sunday, April 29th.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have Jamie in the studio too, in the igloo.
Yeah, he already said he would come.
Nice. Well, we should probably arrange exactly when that'll be. Maybe the Saturday before, the Monday after or something.
Transportation. The Saturday before, ideally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be good. That'll be fun. That'll be another past guest that finds her way to the igloo.
Yep. You bet.
One by one.
Yep.
Anything else coming up in Calgary? What about the Flat Earth thing? Are you going to go to that?
When's that?
I think it's in 3 weeks.
And that's in Edmonton?
Yeah.
Can we just go for a day? Just get up early and drive.
Drive there, drive back?
Yeah, we can record a little tidbit on the way. And what do you mean?
What will we do there? Troll?
What do you mean, troll? We have a lot of listeners that believe in the Flat Earth.
You gotta try and find out why
Yeah.
That's true.
So we're going to go try and get convinced?
Well,
I think you're half in.
Halfway there.
Yeah. I'm not there.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
I don't think you are.
Is there really anything?
I don't know if there is anything you can say, but fuck, we might as well drive up for the day. I think Michael wants to go anyway.
Really? Okay, well then
So
we can
we
just
might
make
as
it a
well-
road trip, yeah.
Road trip up, road trip down.
Yeah.
Find out when it is for sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting perspective.
And it's at West Edmonton Mall. So we could go skating. What else can you do at West Edmonton Mall?
Water slide.
There's a water slide. You can do all sorts of fucking cool shit there. The boat, the big pirate boat. We could get a theme room.
There you go.
Which one do you want to get?
The Flat Earth theme room.
The Polynesian? The hot tub? We'll do a podcast from in there.
There you go.
The broken video stream. So anywho, what do you got? I'd like to play some jingles.
You want to play some jingles? Well, you choose, man. Well, I want to do a little chemtrail thing. Not chemtrail, geoengineering thing.
Okay, fine.
Graham is an all-in believer in chemtrails.
Got a little hot there.
If that goes too loud, do you level that out later on? That was pretty loud. It's gonna piss some people off.
The algo's catching it.
So I've been
getting
lots of emails. I need your clip cord.
Ugh. It's a clip thing too?
Yeah. I've been getting lots of emails about geoengineering and weather modification, and I sometimes I save them up, and there's some pretty interesting things here. So lots of stuff on black chemtrails lately, like people filming black smoke coming out of the planes.
I'd like to see that. Do you have a video?
I do, yeah. I have a couple of them, yeah. How would I play that for you? Can I cast it over there for you?
You could.
Even though this is only audio, but still.
Yeah, I'd like to see it because I don't believe you.
So first of all, I've got a weatherman explaining chemtrails, which is really interesting.
Chemtrails. A weatherman?
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, buddy died, eh?
Yeah.
The dude who founded the Weather Channel?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Okay, ready? So this is, I'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes as well.
Great job.
Yeah.
You're going to jiggle it.
Do
Okay.
you believe that all those jet streams are chemtrails?
No, not all of them.
Just some of them, right?
Yeah, some. Yeah, some. There's some stuff. There's some there's legit geoengineering going on, but yeah, they've admitted to it. But it's not all. I mean, a lot of them just dissipate and they're normal contrails that we used to see decades ago, but they don't all do that.
Yeah, it's just condensation.
Yeah, but this guy seems to think that it's just creating a bunch of clouds. Let's see.
Just for a second. Let's take a look at this.
Oh, you got to work in.
What happens when you have a lot of moisture upstairs? Jet planes that are traveling in the sky are up somewhere usually be between 28 and 38,000 feet, up where air temperatures are anywhere from 40 to 80 degrees below zero. As a jet plane travels, it's burning Jet A fuel, that's basically kerosene, and the byproducts are carbon dioxide, which you can't see, and water vapor, which condenses out in that super cold air. And I mean, like I said, anywhere from 40 to 80 below zero.
So this guy's actually pointing at a chemtrail in the background. There's a whole bunch going back the other way. It's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny clip.
Nice.
Let's see. So he's just basically saying it's an invisible gas and water vapor coming out of the Jet A fuel.
So it instantly condenses out into ice crystals. There are over 40,000 flights across the United States every day. And every time this happens, I will get people calling, writing, emailing, saying, these are chemtrails. The government is poisoning us. And I try to tell them, look, see the high clouds? That's why they don't disappear, because the atmosphere is up there is saturated, so this stuff gets out and doesn't evaporate. It just kind of gradually spreads out. That's the explanation. They are contrails, condensation trails. All right.
Persistent contrails.
There you go, eh? That's your explanation.
Done. And so now
and why is it only happening in the last couple decades?
Ooh, I actually seen some pictures from the 40s. Chemtrails all over the place.
Yeah, they're doctored. So
Okay.
here's a couple videos I'll just show you, Darren. I'll try and of black chemtrails.
Are you playing the jingle, or are you?
No,
is it
I'm just watching.
Is it a clip, or it's just?
No, we're just gonna watch it and talk about it. I'll put it in the show notes. So
is that a chemtrail or is that like a show?
No, they're Lufthansa.
What's that?
It's the the European
Red,
airline.
Black to black and red, black and orange. Well, I don't even classify it as orange. It looks pretty red. You know that was some potent sauce, whatever it is.
So that's that one.
It's like smoke.
That is not good.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, it looks like smoke and it acts like smoke, and I don't think it's just water vapor. I mean, these guys like David Keith, they want to do this. They say they have the technology. They've been doing it. You look at all the patents. Here's another one here of a plane with black trails. I mean, I don't think that's just what super fuel.
Maybe it's having engine trouble.
That is dirty nasty. Oh, he's getting.
Yeah, I mean, we're making clouds now like we've never made them before. Why now? We never made those. We used to have blue skies. Is it because of the amount of air traffic now? Is that the big difference?
It's the chemtrails, bro.
And these videos are taken off of YouTube. So why?
They are taken off of YouTube?
Some of them. And they're in BitChute. Oh, that's something I got to play later. I'm saving that one for another.
Is that the
another
40s?
time.
Are those sky swastikas?
No, I'm saving that for another time. So the other thing I have for you is a little
For me?
a little vaccine hoax thing.
Oh, you're going to hoax me?
Yeah. So do you want me to play that now, or do you want to do jingle? We don't have a vaccine jingle. Like
You have a vaccine hoax jingle?
This is interesting. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. Like, I gotta,
So what do you want to play? I don't have a jingle for that.
I'm just kidding. Let's just watch it here.
I don't have a clip cord. You fucking...
It's not really a vaccine. It's more of a flu shot. Flu shot, not a vaccine. You ready?
Yeah.
Right into the face of a brand new false flag.
We're learning just how severe the flu season is.
Getting bad.
It's a real zinger. It's really severe.
Large spike in cases.
Emergency rooms are slammed.
Wait times are through the roof.
This is from the LA Times.
OC Global can no longer accept any ambulances.
It's just going to be an epidemic year.
If you feel sick, go see a doctor.
California hospitals face a war zone of flu patients and are setting up tents to treat them.
War zone.
Hospitals across the state are sending away ambulances. Others are canceling surgeries and erecting tents in their parking lots so they can triage the hordes of flu patients. We're erecting tents? I mean, are there people lined around the block? Is that really happening? Oh. So what did I ask you to do? What happened?
You said, you know what? I don't think this is really happening. Go to those hospitals and see what's going on there. St. Joseph's. So there's the
St.
tent.
Joseph's. Oh, there it is. Look
Totally
empty. Whoa.
They have a tent there.
Waiting room.
Look at this.
Packed. We're turning people away. We can't do surgeries. We're flying in nurses.
Torrance is where we went next. So there was no one there. And this is the place with the tent.
Whoa.
Totally empty. And then she went and checked out the tent. And we went to Orange Global, too.
There it is.
Empty.
There it is, folks.
That's it.
The CDC admits they're doing this. Recipe for fostering public interest and high vaccine demand. Medical experts and public health authorities publicly state concern and alarm. Did you see continued reports from health officials and media that influenza is causing severe illness and or affecting lots of people? The flu false flag. That's what you just saw taking place in that news piece. That's what you saw LA Times writing about. Shame on you, LA Times. Shame on you, Sumya Carla Mangla. You're fear-mongering. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Is that Del Bigtree?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
How'd you know?
I just know.
No, really.
I know his voice.
Do you really?
Yeah.
From the vaccine world?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you, because I've never seen that guy, and I don't know if that's legit or not, but I tend to trust that a little bit more than the mainstream propaganda that's coming out. So what do you think? Is that guy does some good work or?
He seems to. I mean, he used to be on The Doctors or whatever, that TV show.
Oh, really? Eh? Until what?
TV
Until
producer.
he became vaccine?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And then he got booted?
Then he got shunned.
Wow.
Now he's on the internet.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he had quite a bit of views there, probably. He's a pretty big name in the industry or anti-industry, whatever you want to call it.
Huh. Yeah, it's just so disgusting. If they have to push that hard for people to get flu shots.
Flu tents.
So why?
I mean, we have listeners in LA in that area. Is there flu tents?
Why though? I don't get it.
Because they want you to get the flu shot. Otherwise, I know,
but why?
Because
why is it that
Because fucking, I don't know. There's probably some sort of rule on usage, or there's some sort of thing in a contract. If so many flu doses don't get used, that something's null and void, or this happens, or that happens, or a bunch of shit that I don't know. But for some reason, it's fucking worth the pharmaceutical company ponying up what seems to be, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising and propaganda and fucking whatever to get people to take this flu shot. I mean, honestly, at what you'd think they don't care, because unless they don't get paid, if they don't get used, or I don't know, but something's happening.
That could be all there is to it. I mean, it might not be any more nefarious than that, than meeting a quota or having to sell the thing, right? I mean, every time they do that, they get 75 cents or $1 probably, and then it also goes into that fund, and then.
And if it doesn't get sold, then maybe they stop making the flu shot, and you're out, whatever you're making off it. So.
Yeah. It could be completely financial.
When you've got $1 billion ins, then it's like...
Yeah. Or there could be shit in there that's fucking nano whatevers.
Or there could be that. Could be that.
Nano whatevers. That could be a thing.
At the very least, it's money related.
So this is a great episode with Trish and Rob about synchronicities, like crazy synchronicities.
Oh, you should have a couple good synchros for the intro then.
I'm going to, you know what? I don't really. I have, I have one.
Give me my fucking clipcord back.
At least. Okay, here you go.
For one.
High tech stuff here. We're swapping clip cords back and forth.
Oh, yeah. You should have seen the live stream. Total train wreck. We used to have I got rid of the train wreck sound because I thought we were past that, but clearly we're not.
Bingo, bango, social media jingle. Don't forget to rate, comment, and or subscribe to the Grimerica newsletter. Bingo, bango, social media jingle. Don't forget to rate, comment, and
To the polls, baby.
I thought you were getting ready for me to do.
No, you weren't ready, so I just fucking steamrolled right over you.
I am ready. I'm sitting here waiting.
But now I can't find the fucking link to the poll.
Okay, well, I'll just.
Oh, no, I got it. It's right here. So we did the poll. I didn't start it till late because I forgot.
Which poll is this?
This time it was favorite jingle. The options were Rambling Graham, Social Media Jangle, Good Vibes, or Other. List and replies. We got 76 voters. There's actually technically still like 6 hours left. 34% went with Rambling Graham, 29% Social Media Jangle, 29% Good Vibes.
Wow, pretty close.
8% Other. The others we got from Babu Kentu. It's a profound UFO quote of the week. That's my shit. Actually, that's the guy who wrote the acoustic one. From Jagger Benham, the intro tune. That's the guy who wrote the intro tune. We got another one here for profound UFO quote of the week acoustic. C-SETI Graham. And the Black Budget intro. Welcome to the Jungle synchro. No, it's not Welcome to the Jungle.
Paradise City.
Good Vibes. All of the above. I love them all, but my kids sing the Social Media Jangle with me. Don't forget to rate, comment, and or subscribe. That's the one we got shit on too, right? Some hate?
No, not really hate.
C-SETI star or nothing at all. Social Media Jangle got a lot of hate last episode. Good to see it is currently ranking high in the poll. But also the chemtrails one. That's it. I don't know what I'll do for a poll this week.
Right on, buddy. Thanks.
I'll play the winning jingle, though.
I'm a rambling Graham with synchronicities all over the web. And Aaron is skeptical about everyone and don't believe it yet.
Got a synchro?
Yeah, I got one. This is from our buddy Johnny.
Great segue.
First time, long time.
Johnny V?
Yep.
V?
Yeah. Aloha.
Nice. Maybe I'm psychic.
Sorry for the long email. He says, I have a Sasquatch. Synchro or coincidence?
I think he sent the spam.
What? I had to go to Eureka, California for work for the first time this past Thursday and Friday.
I've been there.
Side note, there was a 4.5 earthquake when I got there. I listened to several podcasts on the long-ass drive up there from the Bay Area, and one of the shows was the recent one you did with Fiona Horn. And in the intro, the poll discussed, well, that's weird, Sasquatch. To be honest, I never took a deep dive into Bigfoot. You guys talk about him a lot, and I don't really pay too much attention, but this time made me think about an encounter I had with a gentleman a while ago at my local Costco. I was getting family photos developed and noticed to my right he was developing photos from the Patterson-Gimlin film. I couldn't resist, so I struck up a conversation with him. Super nice guy. He wrote songs about Bigfoot, Bob Dylan of Bigfoot, and was a researcher, even gave me a signed photo. He said we should keep in touch, but I never followed up. I still had his business card in my stack of cards in my car, and dug it out to send to you guys. Next day on my way home, still had sunlight, so I was able to see my surroundings. I didn't know I was in Bigfoot country and came across a roadside shop and got you guys some goodies. I'll send your way. Anyway, what did he say? Anyway, looked the guy up and saw he had recently had a massive stroke and was raising money. And here's the link if you want to put it out there to Grimerica. And this is his card. He sent us the card, Yam Yamarone, California Bigfoot researcher, and this is his Bigfoot stop here, which reminds me of that little rainbow stop with the big Bigfoot.
I fucking been there, man.
Have you?
Yep.
Why didn't you bring something back from there?
It was closed.
You didn't bring a Bigfoot? Oh, is that where you got that thing from?
No, that shit's super expensive. It's all the wood carvings, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's right on the highway. That's on Highway 101. There's a beach right across the street from that. I'm sure I've been to, I was looking at that. I parked my truck across the street when we went and my kid fell in the ocean.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll link to that in the show notes.
Another one, Peter
Yeah,
Pan.
thanks for the email. And I'll keep my eyes on the P.O. box.
Oh, it's funny. We were looking at that exact shop when it was closed the one day, and then we drove by the other day. It was just like, it's probably super expensive and we have no room. We had already bought that carved wooden eagle, and yeah.
It's weird how little on the West Coast there's little towns that just like are full on Bigfoot.
Well, I know I've been to, yeah, that's right.
There's the one in where I used to live in on the coast in BC there. Harrison Hot Springs. And it's like,
yeah, well, right from there, like where that place is in Eureka there, and like Crescent City is just like 5 minutes the one way. And then the other way you drive like 10 minutes and you're in Del Norte Redwood Park. And it's like you're on the ocean, you don't even realize it's there. And then you turn left, you go up the hill and then fucking down the hill and you're in like crazy redwood forest.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right on, buddy. Cool. Well, that's about it.
I'd be interested to know if that is just outside of Crescent City and if it's got the huge giant beach right there with the jetty just down the road.
Yeah, it's probably the same one.
Yeah. Because that'd be crazy if we both went to the same stand.
The Yeti just down the road, or the jetty?
The jetty.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, okay.
A jetty?
Yeah.
You fish off?
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck? That's right. What else you got?
UFO quote, and that's about it, buddy.
Ugh. Is it reading off the CIA webpage?
It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
Oh, is it March 13th today?
Words to ponder and critique. It's a profound.
Did you pick it?
I picked the one below the March 13th, 2015 date. Is that a synchronicity?
We were doing the show and
3 years ago. I picked the one from 3 years
those
ago.
profound quotes from 3 years ago.
Yeah, man.
Doesn't it take longer than that for a quote to become profound?
What do you mean? This is when I read, this is the episode. When I read the quote, it was exactly 3 years ago today.
And you're reading it again?
No, I'm reading the one below it.
When did you read it? How?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
How? Well, I'm just doing it. In what world do you have the quote you haven't read yet?
I pick them like randomly. I pick them. No, I don't go down in order. I pick them for the uniqueness of the moment and all.
No wonder
right?
you're always randomly going to the CIA webpage because you're lost.
So this is, of these UFO reports, the radar visual reports are the most convincing. When a good radar picks up a UFO target and a ground observer sees a light where the radar target is located, then a jet interceptor is scrambled to intercept the UFO, and the pilot also sees the lights and gets a radar lock, only to have the UFO almost impudently outdistance him. There is no simple answer, and that is Edward J. Ruppelt of the U.S. Air Force, Captain, 1956.
March 13th?
No, it's just when I read it. I gotta track this stuff. I put in episode with Rob and Trish, March 13th, 18.
So
the one before
two
was
beside each other that are like
March 13th. The one before was with Art Markman on March 13th, 2015.
What was Art Markman again?
I don't know. You can't put me on the spot like that.
Anything else? Ask for support.
Yeah, let's do it.
Support the show, guys. Grimerica.ca/support.
Mention the chats.
With chats. Check out Grimerica.ca/support, guys. Do sign up for a payment plan if you can. There's yearly options, monthly options, weekly options. You can go to Patreon if you don't like PayPal. But if you could, find it in your heart to do that, if you are getting a little value from the show, that is the only money we take in, and we don't take in very much of it at all. We are still under 1%, but maybe if a couple of you go over this week and sign up, we can creep up on that. Really does help. Really does help us grow, keep the things going. Yeah, and you get the Black Budget feed, which we got a couple interviews lined up in a couple weeks. Those will drop into it. There's already 20 episodes in there. And we're recording it. Like I say, we're recording a couple intros in the next 2 weeks. Those will be in there as well. So that's coming out. There'll be 22 episodes in there and building. So yeah.
And we're still putting extra episodes out in the regular feed as well.
That's right. Some extra there. Yep. So support the show, and then you get some even more extra show.
Lots of ways to support without spending money.
Yep. Check out the show notes. Do everything in the list.
There's a chat. Grimerica.ca/chats. A lot of people are just perpetually hanging out in there, sharing stories.
Some people never leave.
And then
other people have like shifts.
And then Darren's on Twitter and I'm on Instagram.
That's right. And check out
you can subscribe to YouTube. There's a bunch of little tiny things. Rate iTunes. We should really push iTunes reviews too. They help.
Review the show on iTunes. You can also there was one other sign up for the newsletter, Grimerica.ca/news. We do still have that GASA thing going. We totally forgot about. We're trying to send that balloon up to space.
Thanks to the people that donate to that specific cause.
Yeah. I think there was
you might see a refund in your...
I think there was like $400 in there last time I was in there.
That's funny.
So yeah.
And the other thing is about the newsletter is we're probably going to be using that as a tool to send out for live. We're trying some live weekly broadcasts, which will probably be Tuesday, Wednesday night, kind of video live on YouTube, hopefully, maybe somewhere else.
We'll see.
And so we put out we don't have a strict schedule where it's every day starting. I mean, it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, so we might be able to start sending it out the morning of or something like that.
Yeah, or the day before even or something. Or anyways, we'll send out an email and a tweet and we'll put a note in the chats. And we can reach quite a few people now via those 3 platforms. So that's what we're going to do. So signing up to the newsletter just help us keep in touch with you when we're doing stuff.
Absolutely. And then you're signed up for the newsletter, which is great already all by itself.
Yep. Thanks to Justin for helping us out with that.
Yep, big thanks to Justin. So do all that great stuff, guys. And when you pause it right now, do all that stuff. And when you're done doing that, enjoy this fantastic chat. Rob and Trish MacGregor.
All right, so tonight we've got Rob and Trish MacGregor here, and their website is synchronicity.com, and I think they both have their own sites within that. They're both authors of fiction and nonfiction, and I just finished the Synchronicity Highway, which was fantastic. So definitely want to chat with that. There's a lot of stuff that we talk about here on the show that you guys are writing about and researching. So we'd like to welcome you to Grimerica. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you. I love the title of your podcast.
Oh, well,
it's
thanks.
Very different.
Well, it's actually a bit of a pun because Darren's last name is Grimes, but it actually it kind of fits with Grimerica as well, like with what's going on. So And a fellow that helped us get started, Red Pill Junkie, made our logo, and it really fit with, the UFO with the headphones and the Moai and all that. And I felt like I'd seen that somewhere before, and he just created it out of nothing. So
yeah,
I bet he was an abductee.
It looks like one of those statues from Easter Island.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, and just so you guys know, we've been talking about synchronicities on the show for years now. We, listeners.
We have a bunch of jingles.
We have a bunch of we had listeners that even made jingles, and we have listeners sending in emails. And Darren has been known to rate them as part of the third-party Canadian independent rating system. Yeah, it's all good fun, but seriously, we've been. It's been something that, we've been, I don't know, ever since we started the podcast, really. But I think I heard you guys talking about this way back, like probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Probably around 2010. That's when we did 7 Secrets of Synchronicity.
Yeah.
And I think we were on Coast to Coast and on a bunch of radio shows for that.
Yeah. And maybe even podcasts back then, maybe, or...
Sure, I think there were some, yeah.
There were a few.
Yeah.
Not like now, though.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do remember, and I went to the UFO Congress in 2013, and
oh, you're a helper.
I was a volunteer there. So, but I don't know if you guys were there at all. I mean, but I definitely heard about your work, and it's good to finally get to talk to you guys. And also, like I said, I just finished reading your book, which is pretty mind-blowing, lots of good stuff in there about, some crazy synchronicities and just contact. I mean, it's just so much of it resonates with what we talk about on the show. So I don't know where...
Let me ask you a question. Do you ever find that people don't know what synchronicity is? Like when you say the word?
Less and less.
Yeah, less and less.
Yeah,
that's what we felt too.
Yeah.
Well,
because when we first started writing about this, we'd get these strange looks well, what language is that?
But we're surprised by the number of people who don't know the word precognition. They don't know what we're talking about. We just had a book out earlier this year called Sensing the Future about precognition, and just.
But if you say omen, they know what omen.
They know what an omen is, and it's not good.
Well, since we're going to jump into all kinds of synchronicity talk and stuff like that, maybe it would be fitting if I started the show with a jingle.
You want to play a jingle?
Oh, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Set the mood.
I'm a rambling Graham with synchronicities all over the web. And Darren is skeptical about everyone and don't believe it yet.
We could close with Synchronicity City.
Yeah, we'll close with the other one. There you go. So how did you guys end up, in this thing in 2010, the 7 Secrets of Synchronicity? I mean, some of that in your latest book, Synchronicity Highway as well?
Okay, here's how the whole thing started.
I mean, I know you've probably told the story a million times, but I think it's probably worth talking about.
36 years ago, you ready? I had my first date with Rob, and I said, "Do you know what synchronicity is?" He goes, "Yeah, I think I've heard of it. That's like meaningful coincidence." And I thought, okay, he's a keeper.
What day was it?
Nobody else I'd ever dated had any clue. What synchronicity was.
And Trisha's we're teaching English as a second language to Cuban refugees after the Mario boat lift. And I was working as a reporter for a newspaper, and I interviewed her for an article, and we just met that way and started talking, and we both realized that we wanted to get out of our jobs and
badly
be freelance writers. I was doing freelance magazine articles, but I wasn't ready to quit my job yet. And Trish just finished her 6th unpublished novel when I met her, and she gave it to me. I read it over, and I suggested some revisions, and she revised the book, and that sold. That was her first.
I thought definitely a keeper.
That was her first novel. And so then we started getting into nonfiction as well, and we decided we would write a book on synchronicity. And we tried it, and we just didn't know enough at the time to be able to pull it off. And so we set it aside for 20 years?
25 years, I don't know. Long time.
And now the synchronicity books just pour out of us.
That's interesting.
We have like 4 of them.
See, what happened was I was in college, I had read Jung's memoir. And not long after that, a friend and I went to Europe. And so my one destination I just had to see was his castle on Lake Zurich. So we took the train to Bollingen, or however you say it. And the train was late, so there was a synchro here. Finally get into the town and walked to Lake Zurich. And who's in the backyard of the castle of this place he built? But his grandson. So I stood there talking to him for probably 30, 40 minutes about synchronicity and about Jung and, how the place had changed since he had passed on.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. So what happened in the 20 years between, did you guys also have synchronicities happen to you? Was there any kind of that type of thing going on before you wrote the book? Or
yeah, there were. Okay, here's one of our favorites. This happened in 1987. So yeah, that was stuff going on. We had taken a trip to Venezuela, where I was born, and I think we went to the Gran Sabana, which is a place in the interior. And on the way back, we stopped at Maiquetía Airport to catch a flight back to the States. And this was at a time when a drug cartel was really prominent. There was a lot of drug trafficking between Colombia and Venezuela. So there were all these soldiers around with, big guns. And we're standing in line at the security. And the guy in front of Rob and me, has a briefcase. He looks, he's got a suit and tie on, looks very respectable, like maybe a disguised drug dealer.
Yeah, he's a tall guy with a 3-piece suit, and just all he had was a briefcase. And he set it down on the table, and they tell him to open it up. And he unlatches it, slowly lifts it up, and everybody, the soldiers with their guns, and lean in, and we're right behind him. We lean in. There's only one thing in the briefcase, and it's a novel by Trish.
But it was one I'd written under a pseudonym of Allison Drake. So it wasn't even like I could tap the guy on the shoulder and say, hey, I wrote that book, because I didn't have any proof that was me. But that was one of the best.
Yeah, and the title of the book was Fevered. And so it was kind of a fevered pitch at that moment, too, which is very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed a lot of, in your book, there was so many really intense synchronicities with, I can think of a couple, like the name ones with people with the same names. Stuff, you guys must have done a lot of research, from gathering all these stories from around the world, really.
Well, when we started this blog in 2009, it's blog.synchrosecrets.com. That's where we post most of the stuff. And we've gotten a lot of the stories just because people, at least in the beginning, people didn't seem to have anybody they could talk to about what they experienced, and also, we touch on the paranormal and UFOs and all the weird stuff that interests us. And apparently it interests other people too, but they don't have anybody around to discuss it with, because other people look at them and, oh, you weirdo, So they could come on our blog and leave all their stories, and then we got to know a lot of these people.
Yeah, so we've gathered a lot of stories. How many? We've
over 3,000 posts.
3,000 blog posts, and so we use that as a reservoir for a lot of our books, where it just really helps out. And
it helps flesh out what synchronicity is and how people experience it.
Well, maybe there's a new one. So your guys' first date was in 1981?
Yes.
What day?
Yes.
Was it?
November.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't remember. I do. I remember dates. It was like right before Thanksgiving, 1980.
Yeah. Oh.
Then we got married in July of 83.
I was born on March 10th, so it's a miss.
Oh, a Pisces.
One of these days.
Yeah, you're much younger than we are.
Graham's not.
Darren's trying to calculate a synchronicity with the dates here.
Trying to work something out.
Number synchros are fascinating. where people go through these periods where they see 1111 or 111 or 11. We found a lot of those.
Yeah. So what is your definition of, or I know you guys have it in your book there, but do you guys have like a definition that you agree upon?
Yeah, basically we consider synchronicity to be when similar inner and outer experiences come together that don't require cause and effect,
and are
meaningful to the observer. So, for example, just if you're thinking of somebody from high school who you haven't talked to for years, and suddenly you get a Facebook friends request from that person minutes or whatever after you are thinking about that person, that's a synchronicity. It could also be considered telepathy. It could also be considered precognition, all three actually.
Yeah.
And we feel that, most paranormal things fall under the umbrella of synchronicity. I mean, we wrote a book called Aliens in the Backyard about UFOs, abductions, and synchronicity because so many of the stories we heard involve some sort of facet of synchronicity.
Do you have any examples of that with aliens and UFOs and synchronicity?
Yeah, okay.
Tell about.
Yeah, there was a man in Montreal, outside of Montreal, Quebecois man, who had this experience that he had no interest at all in UFOs, and he thought that was something that was just out of Hollywood. And he felt that if there was such a thing, the U.S. Army or military would be telling us. Sure. So he was a little naive about that. But anyhow, so one morning he got up 5 o'clock in the morning every day to drive in 45 minutes to Toronto to his job as in an aeronautical engineering company. And so on this particular morning, his little dog would not go outside. He always lets him outside the back porch. And so he just nudged him with his foot and pushed him out and then stepped out. And then he noticed these strange lights, beams of lights, like 9 beams shooting down in the field, the farm. His house has a backyard, and then there's a farmer's field behind his yard. And he was staring at these beams that were coming down, but he couldn't see it was dark, and he couldn't see what the beams were coming from. But then they started moving slowly in his direction, and so he said he ran inside to wake up his wife. She said, "You got to see this. Take a look at this. What is this?" So she comes out, and she says, "This is what I saw 2 weeks ago on my way home from work, something very similar. It looked just like this. And I told you about it, and you just nodded. You're watching television. You nodded yes. You weren't even paying attention to me." So they're standing there talking, and suddenly this craft, like a UFO, a disc-shaped craft, comes in their backyard.
But it's like on the edge.
Yeah,
it's like a coin on the edge.
It's standing up and comes inside this weeping willow tree, between the weeping willow tree and the house, coming right at them. And there's he turns around to pick up his dog because he wants to get out of there. He reaches for the dog, and there's this beam of light, the golden light surrounding the dog as he's reaching for it. And that's the last thing he remembers. The next thing he knows, he's in the shower. He's taking a shower, and he has no idea how he got there. And his wife is sound asleep in bed, and he's totally confused. But there's no missing time.
It's like time contracted.
Yeah, because he still made it to work on time, but he just locked his door of his office and just broke down because he didn't know what happened to him. And he went through some very difficult times after that because of that experience.
But tell him about the synchronicity.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it was that happened in March of 2011. 2012 in February, he thought about this every day of what happened and trying to figure it out. And so he goes into a bookstore in Montreal in a mall, and he rarely goes into bookstores because he has to read all day long in his job. And so he just likes to relax at night and watch television usually. So he's not a real book reader, but he went in and just started looking around, and he saw a book that attracted his attention. He pulls it off the shelf, and it turns out to be the 7 Secrets of Synchronicity.
Which was translated into French.
Yeah, and had been translated into French. He picked that up and bought it, took it home. So then a couple of days later, he's read 2-3 chapters, and he decides to go on the internet and look up synchronicity and UFOs to see what comes up. And what comes up is this picture he sees with this beam of light coming down into a field, and he thinks, that is so much like what I experience, he's thinking. And then he sees... clicks onto the picture and sees it goes to a blog, and the blog he sees there's a story there, UFO type story, related story, and then he looks at the blog and he realizes the people who have the blog are the same ones who wrote that book, us. And he said, then he realized he had to contact us because of that, so it's synchronicity about synchronicity and UFOs. Yeah. And so that's how we met him, and that's how we got his story, which is the main central story of aliens in the backyard.
So then we started looking for UFO alien stories that did have synchronicities, and found that so many of them do.
Yeah.
Any ones that jump out or that our listeners might have heard of? Any famous cases?
Well, I'm trying to think here. It's 10:30 now.
Yes. Thanks for staying up late for us. I mean, we've had Mike Cleland on, so we're familiar with some of his crazy synchronicities with the owls and the
Mike Cleland's got a lot of the owl stuff. Yeah. He's well, actually, there was an experience we had with Bud Hopkins. For a while, we were doing freelance writing for Omni magazine, and we did it for that red section, which was called Antimatter.
Yeah, you might not know that magazine. It's been out of print for a long time.
I remember it because it had a UFO segment in it in the early 90s, and I was looking forward to every issue that came out. This was in probably the mid 90s, and then it stopped after, and I was like, why did it stop after it went into all this UFO stuff, and then it stopped?
I was so bummed out when they took it out.
So you don't see that in a science oriented magazine, so that was unusual. So
that's who we wrote for.
Yeah, and we wrote in those red pages about the UFOs.
I bet you I've read a lot of your articles then that I didn't even know.
Yeah, you probably did.
We used to cover the UFO conferences. Yeah. That's what they wanted us to do. So we thought, sure, we'll go. So we met Bud Hopkins at one of these. And he had been on the radio the night before and had gotten a call from this woman who claimed that she had been abducted, and she wanted him to hypnotize her. Well, he needed a ride. So we rode with him up to, the conference was in Hollywood,
Florida, and we drove. It was about 40 miles north of where she lived, and so he didn't have a car. He'd just taken a taxi from the airport. So this gave us an opportunity to meet him and spend some time with him and see him in action, because he was doing a lot of these cases with people who were having missing time and abductions. So we went with him and
observed the abduction, the hypnosis.
Hypnosis, and it was a strange situation because her husband was an interesting character. He's a big guy with silver hair and a big beard, and he had this gold Satan thing around his neck, and he was
dressed in black.
And he dressed in black, and he used to be a Baptist minister, and he said he switched sides. And I think, wow, where are we? And so meanwhile, the wife had these strange abduction experiences, and so
but she explain what happened to her.
So anyhow, so she goes. He takes her back to the experience, and she describes this craft. Actually, she didn't see the craft. These beings came into the house, 3 of them, and they just levitated her right down the hall and somehow right through the wall of the house. And then they were in this beam of light being taken up to the craft, and they were slowly rising up. And she could look down and see the surroundings. And she lived right near, at the time, where the National Enquirer was very near her house. And in the every Christmas, the National Enquirer would have this really extensive Christmas display
with a huge Christmas tree.
A huge Christmas tree and a train, and it was a real attraction. And so, as she's being lifted up there, she points to the Christmas tree, and it was so funny that Bud says, "What was their reaction?" She said, "They're not impressed." And so, and if you remember, the National Enquirer is at that time was about the only publication that was regularly publishing UFO stories, and they later stopped doing that. But at that time, that was one of the things they were known for. So she was taken, and that was kind of a strange experience for her.
But now, at a period about a month later, they came over to our house with another friend of ours who was a psychic who wanted to hear their story.
And a couple of them.
Yeah, there were a couple of them. And while they're telling their story, we were sitting in the living room in the place where we lived, the townhouse, had sliding glass doors that looked out onto the parking lot. And all of a sudden, I see something darting around in the cars out in the parking lot. Excuse me, I have a cat on the table here.
Sit down. No, the man, there was somebody who came right up to the sliding glass door and was peering in at us. And this was like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was really late. And so then we ran over there, and then he's darting around between the cars. He's ducking down, and he's, if he could have just disappeared easily into the darkness, but instead he stayed in the parking lot where there was lights, and he would run between cars, duck down, and it was very bizarre. He's all dressed in black. And so we called the police, and the response was incredible. It was like 5 minutes. There were 7 or 8 police cars charging in, and we could not believe, 1 o'clock in the morning, where did all these cops come from? It turned out there had been a murder less than a mile away, and that they're investigating, and they thought this might be the killer. We don't know if he was or not.
Oh, we felt he was an MIP. That was the whole thing. He was the man in black for sure.
Wow. So what do you guys think about in your book, you have a chapter on colossal coincidences, and we've been talking to a lot of guests lately about the way these dates line up, or these things in, whether it's what do you think, Dan, like Hollywood or the occult type stuff, and the amount of coincidences, because it's not really like a meaningful coincidence, so I don't know if it could be called a synchronicity, but the amount of coincidences that add up for these events, or even so it could be an event, it could be multiple events, and
Chris
you guys
Knowles gets into a lot of them.
he gets into a lot of those. So you guys talk about some of these in your book, like the Titanic and JFK, and intertwined storms and 9/11, the Global Consciousness Project, all that kind of stuff. So how do you explain, what do you guys think is going on at the higher level? Like not personal synchronicities, but these.
Yeah, I think to me these are global synchros. Yeah. I mean, you can watch any news night, and if it's something that's big, some big story, there's going to be a synchronicity. There usually is. whether, 9/11, there were a lot of them. The Titanic, of course, if the Titanic had happened these days, people would be texting and Snapchatting while the boat was going down. But, back in 1912 or whatever it was, it's, hold on. I got to move my cat. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Get out of here.
There's some interesting synchronicities between the terrorism attacks of Aurora, Colorado, at when the premiere of the Dark Knight Rises, and the Sandy Hook killings.
Yeah.
That is very strange because in that case, the Dark Knight Rises, the man was entering and they in the theater with his gun, and people thought it was a gimmick because it was the first day of the opening, and he starts shooting, and then of course they know it's not a gimmick. And when the movie starts, the same thing happens. There's a guy entering a theater shooting people.
But what's really weird is that in The Dark Knight Rises, there was the name Sandy Hook is written on a map that's seen in the movie, and that happened, only 5 months or something?
And the name Aurora also appears in The Dark Knight Rises.
5 months, 1,800 miles apart. It's almost like the universe is saying, okay, all these things are connected. If you, and you'll realize what the connection is if you can, pay attention.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's almost not... it doesn't seem to be possibly human created. Like I feel like there's a bigger thing, and it reminds me, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it reminds me of like, a digital or a simulated universe. I mean, for some, the way these things are orchestrated from some higher, what can only be some sort of higher power. It's and you guys go through a whole list of these. Like if you're just to put all the little, stories and events that you have in your book. I mean, it's a huge list of these crazy,
really
crazy,
it's
things
like
that you can't explain.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's like we're only seeing a part of the picture. There's something larger going on that we're just getting little glimpses of it, and it comes through synchronicities.
I mean,
go ahead.
But these are big global synchros, and they point to this connection. I mean, every so often we'll be watching Rachel Maddow or something, and she'll say, yeah, listen to this coincidence. I'm thinking to myself, look, I bet she knows what synchronicity is, but she doesn't want to use the word, but she recognizes, it's about recognizing patterns, that are bigger than us.
Speaking of recognizing patterns, what do you guys think about the thought that these synchronicities are kind of little, almost like deja vu in a lot of ways of some, but the opposite of, instead of being deja vu of a past event, a synchronicity of something is some glimpse of some future reward or some future of, doesn't have to be good per se, but it's some sort of future something that's significant enough that you're noticing the very early droplets of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we wrote about a number of things like that in our Sensing the Future book. We also wrote about it in a personal way, that these things, precognition happens to people. But like with this Dark Knight Rises and the Sandy Hook map or whatever it was that I just mentioned, that was precognitive.
Yeah.
On somebody's part. Maybe the people who wrote the thing. I mean, there was a case of The Simpsons, remember?
Yeah.
When we wrote about The Simpsons?
Yeah.
Let me find this.
David Charles Plate has done a good job of highlighting some of the crazy alignments he's found between music albums and movies, and it's like there's no way that these people were all in cahoots to make these things line up, and he's just it's fucking insane.
Well, part of it I think is that creative people, when you tap into that zone, you tap into the collective soup. Right. Anybody who's creative could go into that soup and find the same thing, but maybe not in the same way.
That's why inventions are created at the same time, maybe across the world, and
100th monkey, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating.
Yeah, there's an artist, I can't think of his name now, unfortunately. He painted this huge mural in, I think it was the late 80s, and it shows a picture of both nature and also a urban setting, and it shows the Twin Towers, and it shows them burning. And at the bottom of it, it shows an image of a man who looks very much like George Bush with a terrorist standing next to him. And
then there's a penis sticking up out of the ground that is Dick Cheney.
Circumcised?
I don't know. It is the most bizarre painting, though. But
yeah, but it's almost like because of the weight of that event, it almost feels like there was more artists and creative synchros, like from all the movies that had some weird thing in there about 9/11, and all the art and the Simpsons and album covers. I mean, it's almost like because of the gravity of that emotional state or something, that more people picked up on it precognitively.
Well, in that September 21st, 1997 episode of The Simpsons, Lisa holds up a magazine that has this large 9/11 and New York City map on the cover. The 11 is created by the Twin Towers, and the 9 is actually part of the headline of the magazine's cover story about a $9 bus fare to New York. But when you see them together, the magazine title says New York 9/11.
Yeah.
1997... that was 4 years before.
Yeah.
So is the thought that an event that big would just have these crazy, significant ripples?
Yeah.
And people tap into it.
And the number 11, of course, looks like the Twin Towers, and there's so many synchronicities related to that number. New York City has 11 letters. Afghanistan has 11 letters. George W. Bush has 11 letters. New York is the 11th state. The Twin Towers forms, like I said, the number 11. The first plane crashing into the Twin Towers was Flight 11. And Flight 11 was carrying 92 passengers. 9 plus 2 equals 11. It goes on and on. Just
it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So do you think the UFO connection to synchronicity could have something to do with synchronicity being humans sort of noticing these consciousness, I don't know what you call them, almost like murmurs?
David Bohm, he theorized that you have the implicate order, which is the underlying order of everything, and out of that comes everything, space, time, and it unfolds into the explicate or the external order. And what I think is that synchronicity is along the border.
Right along the border.
Between those two things.
It's leaking through from the underlying reality and giving us hints. Synchronicities help to expand our awareness. If we're aware, if we're awake.
So it's almost like this is what I've been thinking of too since you guys have been talking, is sort of what Darren mentioned. So maybe UFOs and this other dimension, because you mentioned paranormal as well. I mean, you could probably lump a lot of this stuff as being on that border as well.
I think so too. Yeah. Whitley Strieber believes that a lot of the aliens actually have a very deep connection with the dead.
Right, and I've often, there's a lot of cases where people who have abduction experiences see people they know who
are dead.
Yeah. And so then the question is, are the aliens bringing them there just to comfort the person, but actually it freaks them out even more that you have aliens and the dead friends together. There is one particular case of a person who was abducted after going to a rock concert, and when the experience she had was that as she's put on this table, who comes in the room but the lead singer from, I can't remember the name of the group now.
I can't remember either.
and she says, "What's he doing here?" And they telepathically tell her, we thought that's what you would like.
And then he morphed into an alien.
Then he morphs into an alien. So there's a question: are the dead really there, or are they just appearing to present the image of a dead person, or somebody, in this case the rock singer that she had just seen?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, we might as well get your take on, a couple different topics that are obviously related, but since you guys are here, like abductions, of course, and then disclosure as well. I mean, we might as well talk about a couple of those things. So as far as abductions go, like, you guys have done so much research over the years. Do you think that, what's your take on that?
Well, here's one thing. After we published these 9 blog posts on this Canadian man, it started with the first one. We started getting on our counter hits from every acronym government agency, including the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who stayed on for 8 hours.
No.
It was like they assigned somebody.
Yeah, they assigned somebody to do that. Yeah, that person would lose his job if they're
So this is when you started your synchro blog?
Yeah,
well, this is when we did these posts on this this Canadian case.
Case. We published 9 articles related to 9 posts related to this particular case, and that's started attracting the attention of all the NSA.
We had,
DNA.
let's see,
and the
we had the Department of Defense, the FBI, the U.S. Department of Defense Network Information System, the Navy Network Information System, the FCC, the Department of Defense Network, and the Social Security Administration, which I thought was interesting.
When was this again? How long ago? 2000.
This was in 2013.
2013.
Wow, holy shit. Okay.
Yeah. And then the 754th Electronic Systems Group, which I had to look up. There's some, if you Google them, they are some very weird organization, government. But, and that led us to believe, oh my God, none of these people know what's going on. So they're reading these things thinking, okay, well, here's another piece,
And it seems like each agency knows a bit of the story, and they're trying to find out what everybody else knows and put it together. So, I mean, there was the concept that after the Blue Book came out, that there was no more investigations by the government in UFOs is just bogus, because it definitely continued. And now with these revelations that came out a couple months ago, that there was another organization that lasted for 5-6 years that was investigating UFOs, and the guy.
It was the beginning of disclosure, then, New York Times.
And it was on. And the significant thing, it was on the front page of the Sunday New York Times, and to get any kind of article in any page on the New York Times is very difficult, and they spent like weeks. Working on this and digging into it before they published it. So that is.
We just spent 2 days with Whitley Strieber. His wife, who died in 2015, had directed him to come to this spiritualist community that's north of Orlando called Casadega. So we know him from his podcast and having been on. So he asked us if we could come up. And
it was actually a synchronicity. Yeah. He had emailed us and asked us, have you ever heard of Casadega, Florida? And oddly enough, we were in Orlando at the time, which is about half an hour away. And Trish wrote back and said, yeah, I just gave an astrology workshop there yesterday.
Wow.
So then Whitley said, okay, and he decided he had to go there. It's a spiritualist community. Where
everybody talks to the dead.
Yeah, everybody has little placards on their their doorstep and by their gate, their Reverend so and so, mediums and psychics, and so it's a kind of a fascinating little.
So he also told Peter.
Yeah. So we also met. Have you ever had Peter Lavenda on your show? He's a very interesting.
Yeah. Well, he's on the wish list for sure. We've been talking about it. Yeah.
We've known Peter for years.
So he met us up there too.
He was up
send
there.
Send him our email.
Okay.
Yeah, he's quite.
He's fascinating too. He's this Tom DeLonge stuff that he's doing is really interesting.
Yeah, he wrote the Tom DeLonge's.
Can't remember the name of the book. It's long.
Secret
Machines, I think it's called.
Yeah,
that's
right.
It.
Yeah. I mean, they're both names are on there, but Peter was actually the author.
Oh, I don't think I realized that. Wow, yeah, because he's got some really interesting work with his experiences in South America, I think, and the underground bases and stuff too. I mean, it's crazy stuff. Yeah,
he's a mysterious character. I email him, and he's in Malaysia or he's in Amsterdam. He's moving around, and 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 Whitley said at one point to us, who the hell is this Peter Lavenda anyhow, and
like we're supposed to know.
And because he has these connections with intelligence agencies, but he denies that he is a spook or a former spook. The thing is, if he was, he would deny it, and if he isn't, he would deny it. But one time he just told me right out that he was headed to California because he was going to a convention of retired intelligence agents. So what is that?
Yeah, fascinating guy. And so we sat around that night and talked for hours. Just about all kinds of interesting, weird stuff.
And the funny thing at Casadega, Trish and I been there many times, and we know some psychics. We have had many readings there, and we convinced Whitley to go have one of this particular woman. And then we said, Peter, are you going to get a reading too? And he said, well, I would, but then I'd have to kill her then.
Yeah, exactly. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. Yeah. So knowing him, and do you think that this whole Tom DeLonge thing and this is legit, or is it more of a psyop, or what's your feeling on that?
It is legit.
Yeah. Supposedly DeLonge has been cut out now. I don't know what that means, but he was I think last year given an award as the ufologist of the year by somebody, and for his work, and he put this together with a lot of
he was with John Podesta.
Yeah,
he and Peter, and when they were working on this book.
So a lot of government people, former government people that, and who is the scientist?
Hal Puthoff.
Hal Puthoff as well. And so it's amazing, that the connections he was able to make, going from Blink 182 to UFOs and. Putting together this organization that he's involved in.
I think Hal Puthoff is the one to talk to. He's been around for everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's a remote viewing.
Back from Stargate and all that, and I know it's fascinating.
Book him, Grambo.
How old must he be now? 95 or something.
He's ready to come clean.
Yeah, he's been on the wish list too.
Yeah.
I gotta get him.
Yeah. So I mean, so getting back to the question on abductions, because you guys started out by saying that Montreal that happened, and all these agencies are following you guys, or at least peeking in. So does that give you a sense that there is a MyLab aspect to most abductions, or do you think it's kind of an ET thing? Like, do you have a stance either way on that?
I think it's
a combination. Yeah. We have one story. I don't know if it's in this particular book. It might be in Aliens in the Backyard.
It's Aliens in the Backyard.
Yeah, where this woman was in the process of moving from. Where was she moving from?
From Georgia.
From Georgia to St. Augustine, right? From around Atlanta to St. Augustine, and so her husband was...
What a beautiful town, St. Augustine.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Okay, this was November 9th, 1981. That's significant. That's about the time I met you. I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, she was making that move. Her husband was driving the truck with all their belongings. She was following it in this, what kind of a car?
It was a Regency Oldsmobile sedan with a V8 454 cubic inch engine. In other words, big.
Yeah. And fast.
And she was with one of the sons.
One of her three sons. And so driving along, and she's in Florida.
On I-75.
Right. And somehow she...
No, they were about 100 miles south of Atlanta, near Macon. Hardly any traffic. It was dark. And suddenly she realized they weren't on the interstate anymore. She and her son were driving on a strange grid of roads, with no buildings in sight. She didn't see anything she recognized. She was really tired, but she kept driving. The next thing she knew, she and her son were on their knees outside their vehicle on a black asphalt tarmac near airplane hangars, sobbing hysterically. Circling overhead, I'm reading from the book, were several noisy helicopters and 3 round, softly grumbling spacecraft. In front of her and her son were a group of grays and several military men in fatigues and heavy boots who held what she described as massive-looking assault weapons. Talk about being freaked out.
Yeah, that's crazy. But having said that, it doesn't mean that they're ET, I guess, right? Some people would say they could be fabricated. I don't know if I don't know where I stand on the whole thing myself.
Maybe the whole thing's fabricated.
Yeah.
It's like trying to make your way through the Matrix, the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know. Yeah. But for her, the military people threatened her, but she was sobbing so hard she didn't understand what. I guess they were saying, if you ever tell anybody what happened, we will, whatever, kill your family or whatever. But then the next thing she knows is that they're driving this grid of roads again, and they come to like a convenience store. And so Connie runs into the convenience store and asks the woman how to get off it was an air base. And the woman said, well, you get off the same way you came in. It was Warner Robins Air Force Base. And Connie didn't know how she got in. So at some point, she got out again onto I-75. And by the time she and her son made it to St. Augustine, her husband thought she'd been killed or in a car accident or something, And this is in the days before cell phones, so it's not like they could contact each other. But anyway, there was a period of missing, I think, 3 or 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And when they got to St. Augustine, Ted was ready to call the cops and, send out the battalions to try and find them. But her story is strange. She's a lifelong abductee, whatever that means.
Exactly.
Yeah, we had another contact with another man, Quebecois man from Montreal, who listened to us on Coast to Coast talking about the other man, and he is somebody who has had these encounters since he was a child. The first one he remembers when he was at his grandparents' house. He was riding his tricycle in the basement around when he sees the basement window. He stops, and there's these legs that are in these silver encased leggings, and then there's a beam, and that's the last thing he remembers. But just he was totally fearful after that. He would never go down in that basement. So he had a number of different experiences throughout his life, and so one morning he woke up just feeling terrified and just overwhelmed by this impending sense of doom, and his blinds were closed, but suddenly the room was just inundated with white light, and the next thing he remembered, he was pinned to a vertical table in what looked like an underground cavern with a rocky ceiling and rocky walls. And there were other people who were also strapped to tables in the room, and they all appeared to be unconscious. And then these men in lab coats, humans, and also small, milky, beige-colored beings were moving about. And two men with weapons were standing not far from him. And one of them, what he calls the little bastards, aliens that was right in front of him, and a voice in his head said, "You are not to speak of this to anyone." So he says, I felt my head being pushed down, my chin was driven into my chest, and I felt the back of my neck being stretched to its limit. I won't, I promised, he answered. And the next thing he remembered, he was back in bed. It was 3:30 a.m. So he's had experience like this over and over. So I was collecting his experiences and going back and forth with him on email, and suddenly he said, "I can't talk to you anymore. I've been getting strange telephone calls from all over the world where people just hang up on me, and I don't know anybody in these places, and maybe I'm being paranoid, but I'm just cutting this off. I can't talk to you anymore." And that was the last I heard from him.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes people are just too scared to go on, you know.
And he was not a happy camper. He wasn't a so-called experiencer, the people who actually enjoy being abducted.
I don't know if they enjoy it. It's just their attitude.
Some of them do it. They have a positive attitude about it, and they think they're doing something worthwhile.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that what the difference is between the people, you know, where they have the negative and positive experiences. Have you guys ever had any experiences yourself at all? Like whether it's just sightings or
We've had sightings.
Yeah. We had like 3 sightings last year.
One was over Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
We'd gone inside, and I'd found a UFO book, and we come outside with the book, and I said, "Hey, Rob, what is that?" And we look up now. There's other people in the parking lot. Nobody's looking up.
Yeah, it's this bright light several hundred feet right above us, and we can't see what's behind the light, and there's no sound coming from it. It's not a helicopter. It's just there and shining down. And so we stood there 5 minutes or 10 minutes or just watching it. And then Trish said, "I want to go over to the drugstore." And so I drove just like a block away to this drugstore and parked in the corner. And so she went inside. And then I see the light hovering over this golf course, and it was just like there was one window through the trees where I could see the golf course, and there it was. It was like it was appearing just for us. I don't know why, but
we're here.
Yeah, and then we had another case. Oddly enough, this is a synchronicity. It happened in the town of Jupiter, Florida, and that was this. A few months earlier than that, we had met a friend who lived north of Jupiter in the town of Stewart, and so we met halfway up. We're near West Palm Beach, and so we had dinner with him, and then we went in our separate ways. We're coming back, and we see these red lights, and I first think it's like a radio tower.
Or construction, lights that they put on construction stuff.
I see it through the trees, and then we see an opening, and then we see these lights in the sky, and we pull into this vacant lot.
There were a lot of them.
Yeah, and there's this biker and his Harley, and he's freaking out watching these lights, and he's
on the phone with his wife going, honey, the world as we know is ended. He was just totally flipped out with us.
And so, we're watching these lights. I don't know what they were. They're just moving around, and then they just started blinking out.
There were 8 of them.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Huh. So what do you guys think over the last 20 years? 10 years, things have changed a lot. What are your hopes? Do you have hopes that? It's going to continue as it opened up quite a bit.
People are becoming more open.
Yeah,
people are becoming more open, which is really important. Instead of abductees remaining quiet and suffering in silence, a lot of people are stepping forward, and that's good.
Yeah. In the 80s, it was hard to talk. It was hard to talk about this stuff. I mean, we had an interest in it, but
we were spurned.
But now it's just a lot easier to present this information.
And I have hope. I mean, that Leslie Kean thing in the Times, that's a huge step.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's just people are still, like, the UFO community itself seems skeptical now. Like, they're the more skeptical ones than the mainstream. Like, I have all these, a couple friends that are like, oh, I believe now because they saw it in the New York Times, and it's
It's just like Roswell. The UFO people, a lot of them don't believe it, but people who don't have a great, interest in the UFO field, if there's anything they know about and believe, it's Roswell.
And yet, Joe McMoneagle, we have an interview with him in the Synchronicity Highway, where one of the things we asked him was, have you ever remote viewed Roswell? And I mean, his response was, yeah, he has, and it didn't happen there.
Yeah. There was elsewhere, Corona.
Yeah, Corona, I think it was. Let's see.
I think like 50, 70 miles.
He says, I don't believe it ever happened. It's my belief that the real crash was a two-part crash that took place in Socorro, New Mexico, approximately 170 miles west-northwest of Roswell. It's actually almost due west, just south of Albuquerque, and just north of Truth and Consequences. A crash occurred there that is almost never referred to. If someone brings up the crash at Socorro, almost without exception, Roswell becomes the front page news. They use Roswell as a distraction to draw people away from the crash site at Socorro, which I believe is the more important crash site. Mm-hmm. And Joe was remote viewer number 1. He's good.
Yeah. I've heard him before, and fantastic guy. Yeah. So you have hope for the future in this field of all synchronicities, UFOs, abductions, all that. The truth will keep leaking out, drip disclosure, and people will continue opening up.
I sure hope so.
It's more interesting than hearing this Trump stuff every day. We live in a world that's just 24/7 Trump, and so it's a nice distraction. But the problem is,
this is the real stuff.
But the problem is, it's not the real stuff for the mainstream media or science.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're still just blowing it off,
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Is I could care less about the I do care about the media because it's just such a joke. But it's the scientific community and academia that frustrates me because it seems like they're just part of the problem. They're a big part of the problem. They just ignore all the evidence and stuck in their little materialist paradigm here. Where we're a schizophrenic society. We're living in, where people have all these experiences, all these sightings that are unexplainable, and a lot of people aren't dogmatic about what it is, but this, and then we're living in this crazy scientific paradigm, materialism, where, none of this is possible. Like, it's got to break open eventually.
Well, part of the problem is how prominent skeptics are.
That's exactly.
Like this Michael Shermer. I mean, the guy who started Skeptical Inquirer, man, he thinks that synchronicity is just total bullshit.
Yeah.
Until he experienced a really powerful synchronicity himself.
And then he had to have a real. He wrote a column in, I think, Scientific American about his own synchronicity and spirit contact, basically story.
Is that the one through the radio and all?
Yes,
radio that was on. That was from his new wife's owned by her grandfather, who she really missed, and she was getting married.
And she was all, didn't have any family with her.
Right, and I think she was European, and so far from her home and her origins.
Yeah,
and she
origins.
That radio came on just before the wedding, and then it's that radio she had hung on to it just because it was her grandfather. Said it never worked at all, and then it was playing this like a romantic love song, and then it shut off.
It played for a day, and then that was it.
That was it. It never played again.
Yeah.
So he was impressed by that.
Yeah. So how do you explain something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. I feel like they're propped up. They're propped up by the media. People, there does seem to be a power the powers that be that want to just keep us down, without realizing that there's more out there. I mean, I feel like there's only a matter of time before the internet and a bunch of these shows and stuff start breaking it open.
Well, I think shows like this do help break it open. It gives people an alternative.
Well, and books like yours. I mean, you guys have been writing about this. How many books do you have out now about this? And it's just, case after case and story after story. I mean, you can't read all this and just ignore it. I mean, some of the synchronicities you guys put in there about the people with their names, the same names and the same stuff. Like you couldn't even put an odds on that. Like it's beyond chance completely.
See, if you included that in a fiction novel, the editor would say nobody will believe that.
Right. There's another good story of synchronicity related to UFOs when we couldn't think of them when you asked earlier. But here's one. So Bruce Kernan and I wrote a book called The Fog about the Bermuda Triangle, and now we have a new book out called Beyond the Bermuda Triangle. But anyhow, this was how many years ago was it when we went to Andros?
2009.
Yeah, we were invited to go to Andros Island for UFO hunters to be interviewed, and they were doing something that touched on the Bermuda Triangle, but it was more about ATEC, the Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation.
Very strange place.
It's a secret Navy base.
Yep. It's got a bunch of helicopters and everything too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
you won't believe the story. The story is incredible.
So we were Bruce and I were interviewed on the beach there, and then Bill Burns, who is kind of the head of the chief of the UFO hunters, said, "Okay, we've been trying to get a hold of the commander and get into the base and have an interview with the commander and ask about the UFOs, why this place is called the Underwater Area 51, because most of the base is actually underwater, 60 or 70% of it, and there's a submarine base there." And so he said the producers have called, and not only do they say no, they don't say anything. They don't respond. So let's go there and go to and see if we can get in and see if we'll bring the cameras and sound and everything and see what happens. So we hopped in this Jeep and drove over to the base, and we stopped about I would say about 50, 60 yards from the gate. And we all got out and got the equipment ready to approach the gate. And so suddenly, a couple of strange things happen. A black helicopter rises up from behind the gate and comes up and hovers up right above us. And then two cop cars come up and approach the gate. Instead of pointing at the gate, they come in sideways, so they're nose to nose, blocking the gate. And so we had started walking that direction. We have the cop cars blocking the gate, and we have this black helicopter above us. And Bill Burns stopped and says, "I don't think we're welcome here." So we retreated and left. So move ahead 4
or 5 months. It was.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months later. That happened in April, and in September we were in Sarasota, Florida, helping our daughter move into her dorm. She was going to a college there. And so that evening, after we helped her move in, Trish and I decided to go downtown Sarasota and to a restaurant and see what was going on in the downtown. And we see this bar restaurant where it's kind of partially open and outdoors.
And band.
It's got a band playing, and it's very crowded. But we walk in and see if we can find a table. There's no tables, but there's a high top with 2 seats open, and it was virtually the only seats available in the whole bar. Or in the whole restaurant. We walk up and ask the people if there's anybody sitting there. They said, "No, go ahead." So we sit down, and the band is playing. And when the band takes a break, and we start talking to these people. And who are we talking to but the commander of AUTEC? He retired. He was the commander in April when we were there, and he had just retired. And so we started talking to him, and I explained about UFO hunters and how we tried to get in to see him. And he looks at his girlfriend, and he says, "I need another drink." And and then the band played, and it was hard to talk to him again. But I wanted to talk to him about the UFO stuff because he was very interested in listening, but he wouldn't say anything. But then he handed me his email address. I thought, this is great. I got his email address. Then he asked us if we wanted to go to another bar with him. And
we should have.
But we didn't. We were tired. And we left, and I lost the email address.
I just had a feeling you were going to say that.
But what are the odds of something like that?
The one that broke.
Did you just try like xcommander@autech.com? No, didn't work.
Yeah, right. That was
synchronicity at autech.com and see what happened.
Yeah, is that a? So can I just summarize that again? So is that AUTEC base or that area, underwater area 51 near the Bermuda Triangle? Did you say?
Yeah,
it's Andros Island.
That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Andros Island is the largest island in the Bahamas, but it's almost uninhabited. Most of it is forest and sinkholes and underwater passages.
Now, here's another weird thing. When we were leaving, Bruce was flying, and Rob and I were sitting in the back. And at one point in my life, I took flying lessons, and I was looking at his navigational equipment, and all of a sudden, the islands vanished.
On the GPS?
On the GPS. I said, Rob, this cannot be good. And so Bruce didn't say anything, and neither did his wife. We go on, get to Paradise Island or something, and from there he turns back towards Palm Beach in the east coast of Florida. And once we landed, it worked. So I said to Bruce, Bruce, what happened? He said, I don't know.
Well, what happened is he flew right over the base, which he shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And we talked to somebody later who was a civilian employee and a former civilian employee. And I told him that story, and he said, "Oh, you got hit by an E-bomb."
And Bruce had his equipment checked out the next day, and it worked fine.
It worked fine the next day, but it just blanked out the radar or the GPS.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that. You wonder what that whole island's like, all the underwater tunnels and AUTEC and.
Listen, I went around every place we went on Andros. I asked employees, "Hey, what do you know about AUTEC?" "Oh, nothing."
Get anybody to talk.
They're the biggest employer.
But however, the former civilian employees do talk, and we've met several of them. They had some really interesting stories. One of them talked about being in a submarine when suddenly all the electronic equipment went crazy, went out, and for like 3 minutes, and then it came back on, and they discovered they were 100 miles away in the tongue of the ocean, which is 6,000 feet deep, from where they had been 3 minutes earlier. It was an impossible shift of locations of the submarine. And another guy was on a ship when the radar picked up that there was an island out several miles out in front of them.
It was an object the size of an island.
An object, they thought it was an object the size of an island. It was like a mile across. They're moving towards it, and it's in a place where they're in the tongue of the ocean, where it's 6,000 feet deep. There's no islands out there, and they're moving towards it, and then suddenly it just sinks down, and it just vanishes from the radar. And they reported it. They had the radar checked out. The radar is working perfectly fine. And we heard
there are a lot of stories like this.
Yeah, you wonder if it's one of those portal areas, that.
It very well could be.
Yeah, and some kind of undersea UFO base, possibly that. possibly that Autek has something to do with its, they call it a secret base, and it's not secret because you can find it on Google Earth, but what they do is what's secret about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because they say they work with torpedoes and recovering torpedoes and practicing. But when was the last time the U.S. military shot a torpedo?
Yeah.
I think it was the Korean War. They're spending millions just to rent this space from the Bahama government just to shoot torpedoes. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right on, guys. Well, it's been a good chat here. Do you guys want to say? Is there anything else you guys want to say before we start wrapping it up about your work? Or we're going to link to your website and all that.
Synchronicities.
Yeah. Well,
stories.
Yeah.
But send us them first, though. We don't want to take away any from our show. But yeah, you're welcome to send it to you guys afterwards. Yeah. So what if we read some of yours that you've got in your book on the show? That okay?
Yeah, that's
Sure.
fine. I mean, Aliens in the Backyard would be of great interest to your listeners, just because it's about UFOs and abductions and synchronicity.
But if you want to use any of the stories on Synchronicity Highway, go ahead and read them. That's great. No problem.
Also, Sensing the Future, we've got quite a lot of strange stuff there about precognition and synchronicity.
Oh, yeah. Precog's the one that you just came out with?
Yeah, that came out in January of last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We call those ripple sticks.
Of last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what are you guys working on now?
We have a book called Secrets of Spirit Communication coming out in August. That's kind of a follow-up to our book Synchronicity on the Other Side.
Yeah.
So that's the next one coming up. But we also write novels. I was working on them. I have a whole other life, past life actually. I wrote 7 Indiana Jones novels for Lucasfilm and Bantam Books, including The Last Crusade. That was in my past.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's good. You guys should keep in touch and let us know when that spirit communication one comes out. Sounds really interesting.
There's some great stories in that. That also involve synchronicity.
Yeah, of course.
Don't tell.
Right on. Well, thanks for staying up late for us. I'm gonna put all the links to your website and all that in the show notes so people can check it out.
And when this goes up, just send us a link.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the blog too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, great. Well, thanks so much, guys. This was fun.
Thank you.
Great talking to you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Okay, we'll
care.
talk to you soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
I want a good score from a synchronicity. If Graham reads it out, then Darren might give it to me. Hey, don't you please rate it low. Yeah.
How long were we talking to?
Hour, 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes.
And that was our chat.
That was good.
That was a fun one.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to read some of those one day. There's some pretty fucking crazy stuff.
Maybe you could sneak them into the quote of the week somehow.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Well, I'm almost out of UFO quotes. No, I'm never out of UFO quotes.
Well, big thanks to Trish and...
We used to do work for Autek.
Did you?
In my old life.
Is it A-U-T-E... What?
A-U-T-E-C.
In your old life?
Yeah.
Now, when you say old life...
The helicopter business.
Okay, a couple years ago?
No, like a decade. 12 years ago?
Yeah.
10 years ago?
Huh. So when he said old life, did he mean...
He meant just previously. Like years ago, decades. Just like the Indiana Jones stuff.
Oh. Yeah. So he wrote The Last Crusade.
And I remember the Autek just being like...
Whoa. So he wrote The Last Crusade.
Yeah. Well, the novel, which maybe got adapted into the film. I don't know if that was a screenplay. I don't think it was a screenplay. He said it was a novel, right? 7 Indiana Jones novels. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of interesting books there. Because it's the synchronicities, dude, and abductions and stuff. They seem pretty open-minded about...
That you get while you're writing the Indiana fucking Jones novels, bro?
Like what?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
All day long.
You're trying too hard.
I'm trying too hard?
All day long.
I do try pretty hard. Indie, baby.
So yeah, that was fun. What'd you think?
It was good.
What do you think of the whole abduction
Started
thing?
super strong. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? I mean, something's going on. I like how they're not very dogmatic. They're like, could be a mix of everything. I think it's all my lab.
All my lab.
So what about the Greys? Are they?
They're my
Are
labs.
they manufactured?
That's fucking false memories, bro.
Really, eh? So it's more mental phenomenon than a physical, like man-made gray?
Yeah. Or it's future humans trying to steal your
soft
semen.
matter. It's not soft matter. Well, if they're decades ahead and they're coming up with this this robotic people that look real and they sound real, maybe they've been doing it for decades.
Probably.
Those high-tech labs, man. Those high-tech labs have been employing scientists for thousands of scientists for decades and decades.
What do you think they came up with? If those were monkeys, they'd have written a book by now.
No, I don't agree with that. Who fucking came? That's a bullshit thing.
No, 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters and 1,000 years would write the works of Shakespeare.
No, that's fucking some silly fucking meme. I don't like those things.
I wonder what fucking Fusco would think about that. Anyway, big thanks to Trish and Rob for coming on the show. Always fun, always a blast. We can talk about these synchronicities. For what it's worth, I rated them 8.2,
that's what that was.
9.8.
Good ratings.
8.8 and 7 point something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a good average.
They were telling us their best stuff, I think. But
No. Read the book. There's fucking, I'm telling you, there's crazy stuff in there.
Do we have the book?
Have you heard about the one with Richard Parker?
No.
Did you know that 3 Richard Parkers died on a boat, stranded at sea, eaten by other humans? 3 Richard Parkers.
Ouch, don't name your kid Richard Parker.
Can you imagine? What are the chances that
if your name's Dick Parker and you're out on a boat listening to this, you're like, fuck. You're looking around.
Like, I'm pretty sure I got that right from the book, from remembering it. It's fucking crazy.
Who told those stories?
It's in the book.
Who told the stories? The guys that ate them?
I don't know.
Because there's only a couple people that know that story.
Richard Parker tasted good.
Yeah,
Dick
man.
tasted good.
We ate Richard Parker. We ate Richard Parker
Dick.
again.
And why would it be Richard?
Wait,
we
ate Dick. I get it now.
Okay.
They're just gay sailors.
And that's the name for it. Richard Parker is it's the code name. How was your trip? We eat Richard Parker again. And the meme made it on for 100 years.
Oh, fuck. I wonder what happens is if you put Richard Parker in the Urban Dictionary.
Do you want me to try that right now?
We ate Richard Parker. What do you got? We should wrap this up.
Geez, it came up right away when I said urban. Richard Parker, the Bengal tiger from The Life of Pi by Jan Martel, was named after Edgar Allan Poe character. The narrative of Gordon Pym and Nantucket.
On a boat in that movie?
That's what I just said. Yeah, that's like Life of Pi was around the real story of Richard Parker.
Oh, that's one of them.
In the story, however, the narrator explains that a hunter named Richard Parker shot the tiger's mother. Sometime during the baby tiger's transport to Pondicherry, the zoo, the hunter's name was substituted for the tiger's name, and the name stuck. Well, it doesn't even say anything about the rest of it.
All right, guys.
Oh.
Thanks for listening.
Hang on. Doing a Richard Parker. Hang on.
Oh, yeah.
To rudely leave somewhere without telling someone, disappearing a banterous place without saying goodbye. Where's Dave gone? Can't see him doing a Richard Parker.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
No, that's not.
We used to call that the pokeroo in my day.
The pokeroo, really?
Yeah, I missed him again. Huh? When we disappeared, we just leave the group. It's like
now it's called a Richard Parker.
You're Poker, and now it's the Richard Parker.
Yeah.
I also think blowing another dude is a Richard Parker.
And you know what else came up right away? The Google books, The Domesticated Penis, How Womanhood Has Shaped Manhood. That's like the 5th definition of Richard Parker.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we just made a 6th. Eating dick. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
To my heart, I cannot hide my very eyes before you come.
Can't you hear that theme song playing through your headphone cord? Can't you spare a couple dollars to give Grimerica support? Grimerica.ca/support. Grimerica.ca/support. Oh, fee, fi, fiddly-I-O, and tell them Felix sent you there.